The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the codpiece that's doing all the work, that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
Yeah,
very prominent.
Like, they have this, very naked character, and then, I know, like, a lot of male ballet dancers wear that thing they call a dance belt, but this is more than just the dance belt.
Yeah, well, I think it's meant to make the character gender neutral, because the monster is, whereas we have the subtext of the monster being in love with Victor, that's very much text.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I did think it was interesting.
Love.
I mean, obviously we'll get to it as we go, but like the corpse, when he's like working on the corpse before it's an actual actor, right. when it's a dummy, that has genitals. That dummy sitting on the table has a dick and balls, but then when he comes to life, we get the
they all go
Ken
away.
Doll codpiece.
Maybe they had a miscommunication with the prop department. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they just grabbed whatever they could. But I don't see that as being the case. I think it was a miscommunication. Because this is the Frankenstein ballet done by the BBC and, what is it, the Queen's...
the Royal Ballet Company.
In conjunction with, I believe, San Francisco Ballet Company as well.
Yeah, I think they're involved as well. And last week I had said I thought this was during COVID, but I think it actually came out in like 2016 or something. So this predates when during COVID there was all those like... live performances being put out on the internet for people to watch. But this is easy to find. Actually, like I found it on I think archive.org, but it's around. I think it might be on YouTube even. But like, which is really cool because like this is the kind of thing that like if you don't live in London or whatever, you may not be able to go see this live. There's no way we were ever going to get to see this live.
No.
So yeah, it's really cool that it's out there in the world because they put a lot of effort into this, and it would be a shame for it to just have, been this ephemeral thing that, ran, at a playhouse for, a month or, 6 months or a year or whatever, and then just disappeared.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously art. It's pretty good art, I would have to say. So it'd be sad for it not to get some recognition, even if it's a little bit later in the game, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
All right, so let's kind of start this off. So, obviously, at the very beginning, we get the discussion about the creation of the ballet, all the actors, actresses, the writer, and, like, his involvement and love with the, as he said, the source material. I have some objections coming up, but, how are you going to necessarily choreograph going through a frozen tundra? Who knows? But
yeah, they definitely claim for it to be very, faithful to the novel. And it's more faithful than a lot of the films, but it's still very... But some of the changes that it made, like, I thought were interesting. Like, they were... because when I started watching this, I was like, is this doing such a good job of portraying through dance this plot that I'm just understanding it? Or is it because I've seen this a million times in a bunch of different ways? Right. But as it went, there were changes, and I was like, no, I'm following what's happening, even though it's not... Or it's its own unique story that's not, beat by beat the novel.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of... The changes they made make sense, right?
Yeah, it streamlines it. It makes it work better for a ballet where you don't have time to, like... or where you don't have any dialogue. You don't have... it's basically a silent movie with people dancing the whole way through it.
Yeah, right, exactly. And, of course, the orchestra is also putting in work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Conveying the music and feeling and everything.
Absolutely.
All right, so we do open with a skull like matte painting, but also it's partially animated.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Like there, yeah, it starts with just a skull, and then you get a lot of like medical diagram sketches over top of it, like slowly being written on there as like the orchestra is kind of like building up the tension with the music or whatever. The overture, I think is what they call it at the beginning.
Right.
And then we go like it changes to like just a stormy backdrop, and we have a lone girl like walking through a storm. She's
coughing.
Yeah, she's coughing. She looks very sick. She goes up to there's like a big house. She pounds on the door and then she collapses.
Right.
And then we will get a family coming out, and it's pretty clear. This is Elizabeth. The family is the Frankensteins. We've got young Victor and his parents, and they
put his coat on her.
Yeah, like he puts his coat on her. So like this is a little bit more empathetic Victor than some of the versions we've seen. And they carry her inside.
Now, as they're doing so, though, he notices the lightning and, the so utterly destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Comes to mind.
Yeah, and again, they do such a good job of like, telling us this without any kind of dialogue. Like we just, you see it. You see, I think his mom like goes inside and then she comes back out and is like, come in, get out of the rain. Right. So she carries him in, and then we get the kids play dancing together. Yeah, they're playing. They're doing like they've got a book that they're kind of stealing from each other and kind of reading bits of it at each other and stuff. Like, just being kids, just being playful. We also see a young maid girl that is obviously Justine,
right.
Who. So
her mother is just.
Yeah, I was like, I thought this was like a head maid. I didn't know what her deal was, but so. In this version, like once you get to the credits, it spells it out that this is Justine's mom. She is the head maid, but she's Justine's mother. So we know from the novel that their relationship wasn't great anyway.
Yeah, and this portrays it.
Yeah, this portrays it more actively because her mom is there, present in the house the whole time, and she doesn't want Justine involved with the masters. She's the help, so she kind of like pulls her away from the fun.
Right, exactly. And it seems like they kind of want to bring Justine into it, but she's like, no, not for you. Only for the rich kids.
Mm-hmm. And we get a great sort of, the way that they sort of transition, we have young Victor and young Elizabeth, and they like leave the stage, and then immediately the adult versions of them come out in the same clothes, so like there's no confusion. We know what's going on here. Just a time lapse here, and they continue the dance, and they're playing to they're now in their late teens or whatever, but there's the relationship has been developing over the years.
Right, and of course we get this scene where older Justine comes back in, and she's trying to carry somebody's case. I'm guessing it's Victor's. It might be Mom's. Who knows?
Yeah, I took this whole scene to mean like I think this is like he's getting ready to go away to school. Everybody's got. You have a bunch of the help rushing around. They're all carrying, packages, suitcases, whatever. And again,
Mom has a surprise though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she comes out. She is noticeably pregnant,
right.
And still dancing. And then we have both the father and mother give Victor gifts, which is what made me really think this is like him going away to school. The father gives him a journal, and his mother gives him the cameo necklace.
That cameo necklace.
Yeah. So then we have like, the help is kind of carrying out Victor's stuff. The parents leave. We have Victor and Elizabeth alone together to get their sort of, personal goodbye. And this is a more extended dance scene. A lot of this is just kind of like subtle dance as they're moving, and we're getting plot. And then there are some scenes that are just more focused on dance.
Yeah. And this is definitely one of them where they're expressing their love, obviously, and they come to a moment where they almost kiss, which will get mirrored later in a really weird way. But,
we also get bits here where they freeze, and then the children versions of them come and dance around them as if they're talking about the memories of growing up together. We're really having this like sort of flashback on stage. It's this is challenging to kind of portray this stuff when there's no cuts, there's no edits. This is just all right there on the stage for you to see, but they do it really well.
Yeah, it's surprisingly well, like how seamless the integration with the kid actors versus the adult versions of them is.
Yeah.
So yeah, after they do all of that dancing, Elizabeth does take a notebook, writes in it. They do actually kiss over it.
Mm-hmm. I think this is the journal that Victor's dad gave him,
yes.
and she writes in it, and then she hands it to him and shakes her head like,
it's
"Don't read this
note.
now. Save this for when you get to school."
Right. And it looks like he's proposing at this point.
I think so. Yeah, he gets down on one knee.
The parents are like excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really happy about it.
Yeah. So everybody rushes in. We get another big dance number, but now we've got the help staff. And at this point, I was like, you know what? We don't have Clerval. What's going on with that?
Eventually, he's supposed to be in this picture right now, right?
Yeah. He grew up with them in the novel.
Well, not in this version, of course.
Yeah,
he's coming in a moment.
Yeah, but we have everybody's celebrating. As you said, it's pretty clear that this is an engagement. The parents are dancing, but then the mother seems to be in pain.
Right.
She's still pregnant, obviously.
It's like she's going into labor. That's what we get. Right?
Yeah. But then she collapses. This seems like, this is a problem. And we have Victor and his dad kind of run to help her. But then the dad gets Justine's mom to help him instead and kind of tells Victor, you stay.
Right.
And they go
Victor and Elizabeth, you stay at over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like how Justine's like, oh, I've got to stay with them. We're friends.
Yeah.
And then the mom comes out, like, no, not you. Get in here.
Yeah, we need your help for this labor. You don't get the benefit of being family and not having to see what's happening here. You're a worker, right. So you got to work.
Right, exactly.
But then it is really so Justine's mom throughout, she's very stone-faced, cold, just very haughty, does not seem like a pleasant person to be around and kind of emotionless. Mm-hmm. But so they're all in the other room for a little bit, and then she comes out to Victor and Elizabeth, and you can she's crying. You can tell right away things are bad. She's showing emotion for the first time. This has broken her.
Right. The father comes out. And it's pretty obvious he's torn up as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the mom has clearly passed.
Yeah. So we don't know how bad things are, but then Justine comes out and she is holding a baby. So mom died in childbirth. Baby. Yeah. So the mom died in childbirth. Baby William survived. And I think that it's a nice touch to the novel where Justine basically does raise William in the novel as well. Mm-hmm. Then we have Victor is obviously crying. He's collapsed on the ground. He's holding the cameo that his mother just gave him. The whole family then goes into the other room to kind of grieve at the mom's bedside, except for Justine. She is now left alone to grieve by herself, and so she gets. I will. One of the things that the change in this from the novel is I feel like Justine gets a lot more screen time. Justine's story is a much bigger part of this in a way that I really appreciated. I feel like we often talk about justice for Justine, and I think this is there are other things that don't get as much attention, but I really did like the way that Justine is portrayed in this.
Once again, Ernest is written out, damn it.
Yeah, no Ernest at all.
It's fine though, justice for Justine.
Yeah. But yeah, so we get this beautiful moment of her grieving. And then we get the first interlude. We'll get a few of these where the screen just goes black for a while, music's playing. They're resetting the stage. They're changing out the sets and everything.
Yeah, you got to during live productions, right?
Yeah. When the lights come up, we've got Victor mourning beside his mother's grave.
Yeah, with Elizabeth behind him.
Yeah, and she's kind of trying to comfort him. And again, this is, mostly portrayed through dance, but she's comforting him. They're both kind of grieving together. But it's her adopted mom. It's his mom. So she's kind of having to be the one to kind of do the comforting here.
Makes sense, I guess. But yeah, so then the entire crew, Justine, her mom, the father, they get ready to see Victor off. Mm-hmm. And an interesting thing is that he leaves with the cameo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, before we had, the murder of William takes place while he's still away at school.
Right, not in this case.
Yeah, things are a little different here. This scene ends with Elizabeth and Justine embracing alone at the grave after everybody else has left to take Victor to school. And then we get another brief interlude, and when we come back, when the lights come up, we are at college. We've got this beautiful college, lecture hall. It's very gothic.
Very gothic.
Yeah, this big archway with all these skeletons and stuff. It just looks really cool. But it's it's the operating theater style classroom where the students are all sort of behind railing, looking down at a professor. And this professor, he's not really named. He's kind of a mix between Waldman and Kemp. Like, he seems like kind of dour and like rude in the way that Kemp is sort of described, but he is also the one who's interested in the the more alchemical side of medicine, like Waldman.
Right. Also, he's interested in his nurses. He has a bunch of hot nurses that he flirts with.
Yeah, I think they're mainly just like another excuse to have more people dancing on stage. Really, but yeah, we have him. He's alone at first. He's like reading from a book. He's standing next to a slab that has a cadaver under a sheet, and a nurse comes in and kind of calls him away.
I like how she peeks under the sheet right after she sends him out.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, all the med students arrive, and they're, this is like a hustle and bustle kind of dance. They're all kind of moving around.
The first day of school, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah. But we also get a new character who is in a red coat to kind of set him aside from everyone else. And everybody else seems to like not want, like he keeps trying to shake everyone's hand, and they're kind of
nobody
cliquish.
Wants to deal with him.
Yeah, they're ignoring him. And then he like ends up dropping his books everywhere, and people are kind of like stepping on him as he's trying to pick things up and everything. And then we get Victor coming in, and he kind of tries to befriend this guy that is obviously our Clerval character. But then the professor comes in, and everybody has to kind of like go to their seats really quickly. So like Victor and Clerval, like, obviously we know they're the friend characters in the story, but they haven't really gotten to connect here yet.
Right. Now, also, after everyone is basically told to take their seats, the instructor is then, like, checking their books for some reason.
Yeah.
And he finds a few he doesn't like and throws them down.
Yeah, this seemed kind of like, we had that with, like, Kemp and Victor, where he's like, this is trash, you should never have read that. But yeah, like, here he, like, is physically, like, taking books away from students and just throwing them on the floor. We get like, I think 4 nurses come in to assist, and we get this sort of elaborate dance as he's like showing them, like they reveal the cadaver, and he's like removing parts from it. The nurses are also bringing out jars with various specimens.
It's very Vanna White in the way they're like displaying the organs in the jars.
Yeah, and it's pretty impressive. Like, I think a lot of people complain about musicals and ballet that, like, everything just seems so, like, happy and uplifting all the time, and it's hard to, like, get nuance there. But this professor character, he manages to still look like a dour asshole while he's dancing ballet, which is tricky, but he pulls it off. It also kind of, he seems like he's in the middle as, like, a puppet master. Like, he's kind of, like, directing the nurses around the room with their various specimens and everything.
Now, as I was saying earlier, during these scenes where the nurses kind of line up with him, like he like starts stroking their faces and act like he's going to nuzzle them or kiss them. So it's like, okay, so that's what he has them for as well. Great, awesome.
We do see that as all this is going on, Victor is like frantically taking notes, and as the nurses go by, he's picking up the parts and looking at them and like, really, getting in there, not just like watching.
Right. And he seems to actually be impressing the professor.
And finally, the professor rolls in a giant spinning science wheel. It's been a while since we've actually had a spinning science wheel, and this one is an impressive one. It's very good.
I mean, mwah, chef's kiss.
Yeah.
It's the king of science wheels.
Yeah. And he takes these 2 like huge metal prods and just like jabs them in the cadaver's chest like jumper cables almost. Yeah. And cranks up the wheel, electrifies the corpse, and like one of its arms just like shoots straight up. This is our galvanism kind of thing here being portrayed.
Right. And of course, Clerval faints immediately, but Victor's excited.
Yeah, several of the other students look a little freaked out, but yeah, Clerval just hits the floor, and Victor is like, hell yeah, like he's excited. The professor comes over at the end of the scene and like takes a book from Victor, but this isn't just a textbook, this is Victor's journal, and he throws that on the ground. Like, so he's not perfect, or not especially happy with what the notes Victor was taking during this scene.
Right. That's interesting. Like, so does that mean he disagrees with Victor's assessment or just how he's doing it? I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, he's interested in the galvanism, but Victor's going to take it too far, which we know is certainly true.
Right. And so let's cut to the boys hanging out with, I'm assuming, prostitutes?
Yeah, they're like tavern girls, but there's like some definitely like simulated sex going on at parts of this.
Yeah, they're simulated cunnilingus, so...
Yeah, but they're in a pub. There's, a big, like long wooden table. They're drinking from steins. We have like sort of like an anonymous group of students who are all kind of dressed the same, and then, we know Clerval. Victor, he looks different, and we know Clerval, who's wearing the red coat. It seems like the students are kind of picking on Clerval. Meanwhile, Victor's just over in the corner reading in his books. He's like kind of ignoring everything. Which is interesting that Victor can get away with it, but they won't let Clerval do that. Mm-hmm. It's strange. I don't know what they have against. I mean, Clerval fainted or whatever. But like right away before that, they're just like, no, we're gonna pick on this guy. He's gonna be the guy we pick on. Right. He's the loser. Right. Yeah. And like, at various points, like they're dancing with the tavern girls. There are parts where like, they're like the men are laying across the tables and they're being ridden by various girls. And there's various points where they're kind of like using the tavern girls to like make Clerval uncomfortable, to like poke fun at him in that way as well. Well, they even at a point they take him and throw him on the table, and the girls start riding him, and they act like they're pouring beer on his face. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at some point in that, the drinks get spilled on Victor's notes, and that's when he kind of like gets up and is frustrated with all the shenanigans. Right. So this scene was like, it's, isn't a correlation to anything we've really seen elsewhere. I mean, it was an elaborate set piece for dance, but I think college life, right? Yeah, it adds flavor to it. Absolutely, and I think it sets Victor and Clerval aside as being like the outsiders in the medical community. And in more ways than one. Like, we know that Victor's science is, edgy or whatever, but like he just doesn't fit in with this mindset that's going on here. Right. And that takes us directly back to the lecture hall, where Victor has returned in the middle of the night all alone, and he starts working on the cadaver that's just been left there. So this kind of threw me off. So is he just kind of plagiarizing the other professor's work? Like, what's he adding to it that's really different? Because I didn't notice that. Yeah, I mean, parts together. We had the other professor, using this equipment for galvanism to show that nerves can be electrified and activated. But he wasn't going to push it to the next thing. So it's unclear what exactly Victor does. It does seem like he's waving his hand over it, so maybe he is using magic, actual magic. He definitely reassembles parts to the thing, and he brings in some other electrical equipment. There's some stuff that comes down from the ceiling. Yeah. But that's a hell of a dynamo he's got there. Yeah, it's I liked this idea that he's sneaking into school. He's doing this stuff after hours. He's not. He doesn't have the resources to build himself his own huge elaborate laboratory. He's not robbing graves. Yeah, it's just all right there. I mean, it makes sense in terms of sets. You don't have to recreate stuff here. But it also, I don't know, it just kind of fit with the tone of this, that this is how he's handling things. Mm-hmm. And of course, as this is going, he's pulling out the cameo of his mother and looking at it. It's very clear, I'm doing this work on this cadaver because I wish that I could have saved my mom. And maybe I can, or maybe I can just prevent the next tragedy from affecting someone else. Right. So let's bring in that contraption and get it to sparking. Yeah, and again, this looks super cool, especially considering this is all done live on a stage. Right. We have a thing come down with sparks. We have the props to the pyrotechnic team for sure. Mm-hmm. And the cadaver is attached to the thing that came down from the ceiling, raised up into the ceiling, and then when it comes down. We get the classic fake out where it looks like nothing happened and Victor collapses to the floor, frustrated that he failed. But then behind him... starts moving. Yep. Creature begins to stir. It turns over and grasps him, grabs at him. Mm-hmm. And Victor immediately jumps up and he tries to help him. But the creature's kind of awkward on his feet, and he ends up kind of staggering backwards and out of the lab. Yeah, he steals Victor's coat, obviously, and then runs out. Victor's kind of like not sure. He's about to maybe follow after him, but then Clerval arrives from a different entrance and starts talking to Victor. So here we kind of get where like he doesn't kind of like, often he like hardcore just abandons his monster. Here the monster's kind of confused and wanders off, and Victor's kind of like pulled away into something else and can't pursue him. So that separation feels a little less like that it's Victor's fault.
Yeah, it's more justified, right? Mm-hmm. So that's going to end Act 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get a longer interlude here. The skull backdrop comes back down.
But the skull actually starts turning. That's the animation of this one. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, I appreciate where this is going.
Yeah, now it turns to like look right at us. So like the corpse, the monster is now staring us down. It's no longer a medical diagram. It's watching us.
Exactly. So at the beginning of Act 1 or Act 2, we're going to see the monster basically stumbling around like it's confused. Mm-hmm. And it gets chased.
Yeah, he's naked except for Victor's coat. He's attacked by strangers. And like he runs away, and then we also, this time the stage is kind of split, so we like the lights go off and on, so we see that. Then we see Victor having nightmares. He's in his like feverish state that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, but we have Clerval, Elizabeth, and Justine. Now they're all together finally.
Mm-hmm. They're all taking care of him, and we also get shots of Justine raising William, and they do a good job here where like she's teaching him to dance, like actually like he's doing dance moves and she's correcting him and showing him how to dance more gracefully.
Right, but they're being very playful about it.
Yeah, and it's also kind of like metaphorical because he also is holding a book and she's like pointing at stuff in it and talking to him. So like she's just teaching him everything. She's just raising him because his mom is gone.
Yeah.
At some point in this, like there's a shadow off in the distance. They see something move, but nothing's really made of it.
He starts the monster starts like tumbling over the set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We eventually, like Victor and Elizabeth join them. Like Victor's woken up. They're all together. The whole family is having this sort of tearful reunion. They're dancing. There's also, again, this is very subtly played, but like you can tell Victor's distracted still. There's something, we know what's going on. We know he's worried about the monster who escaped and what's going on with that. But Elizabeth senses something as well, and is kind of trying to distract him and comfort him.
But all the time, he's still trying to pull away from her as well to focus on the creature.
Yeah, you can tell it's like he wants to tell her what's happening, but he thinks that it would be bad to do so. So he's kind of like, you keep getting the sense where he's like about to say something, and then no, maybe I shouldn't, and kind of like pulling back in.
So as they go inside though, but as they do, that's when the monster comes out, and he's like grasping for them, like he's longing to be near them, right? Mm-hmm. And he does his own dance at this point, and there's a lot of sensual like movements whenever he reaches towards the door.
Yeah, and it's real. I mean, the guy playing the monster particularly has to do a lot. He's dancing, and he's dancing in a way where it looks like he has an invisible partner. Like he's imagining what it would be like to do what he just saw Victor and Elizabeth doing. Like, he's wanting his bride. He's wanting that connection. And he's also,
in this case, he may be wanting his husband.
Right? Yeah. He's definitely wanting a partnership. He's wanting something. Right. As you said, he's reaching towards the door where Victor has disappeared.
But during the end of the dance, he pulls out the journal. Out of his coat pocket.
Yeah. So he starts kind of like flipping through it, and he sees, we don't see, but presumably he sees sketches that are of him. He realizes, his origins here.
Right. He kind of gets repulsed by it, and like almost like he's acting like he's going to tear his own skin off.
Yeah. Right? He throws the coat off. We see his fully naked form, and as we were kind of joking about at the beginning, he's wearing like some sort of codpiece to cover everything, but he's got, he still has scars all over his face, and he has stitch marks everywhere and everything. And it looks like he's like pulling out stitches or staples and throwing them aside. Victor comes rushing out as if he has heard commotion outside.
Right. And the monster's hiding at this point too.
Mm-hmm. But he accidentally leaves Victor's journal on the ground in his haste. So Victor finds it and is like, wait, this is obviously, he knows that he wasn't in possession of this anymore. and it's made its way, to his doorstep.
Oh no!
Yeah, so he ends up like kind of tearing it apart and throwing it, and goes back inside.
Right, and then the monster almost comes running after him, like he wants to follow him, but he can't.
Mm-hmm.
And we get this really interesting thing where there's like a double heartbeat, and then we kind of get another interlude.
Yeah. And when we come back here, we've got all of the servant girls are dancing. They're decorating the outside of the house with flowers. This pretty obviously is they're getting set for Victor
William's
and
birthday.
Elizabeth's wedding.
Oh, I thought this was William's birthday because they have a present and a cake for him.
Oh, that could be. And yeah, because it's a white cake, but it isn't like a tiered cake. So yeah, that could be, because there's kind of two scenes that sort of almost overlap, and it could be a very long wedding, or it could be a birthday leading into a wedding. Yeah, I didn't even clock the gift. That makes sense though. But yeah, they're decorating. Elizabeth comes out. She's dancing with the maids and kind of helping decorate. She seems very happy and everything.
Right. This is also where Justine gives William a bouquet, but also gives him the cameo.
Yeah. Victor gives him the cameo.
Oh, Victor gives him. You're right.
There is a moment here that they kind of play with where Justine kind of looks longingly at the cameo. Yeah, and I think this is, she misses Lady Frankenstein as well, who has passed away, and it may be just that this is a reminder to her, but obviously we know how things play out, and, Justine expressing interest in the cameo is definitely a damning sort of thing.
Right. Especially for the people of the time.
Yeah. But so, yeah, we end up with like sort of an elaborate group dance of everybody sort of celebrating.
Yeah, big party.
Mm-hmm. We have Justine dancing with Clerval throughout, which is kind of nice, to have them have something together. But of course, Justine's mom does not look happy about that. No,
they have a fight about it in the middle of the dance.
Yeah, she like it seems pretty obvious that she's like, you need to know your place. This is you're trying to rise above your station, and that's not okay.
Right.
And Justine
good way to suppress the crew, Mom.
Yeah. And Justine takes off. She has like a maid's bonnet that she like takes off and throws on the ground. Like, and she goes back to dancing. She is not gonna bow to her mom this time.
There you go. Now we also get this scene where William and all the kids are basically playing hide and seek, where they put a blindfold on William, they put a blindfold on Clerval first, then Elizabeth, and then finally William.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's like sort of hide and seek, sort of tag, but it's like they're staying blindfolded and just kind of like groping around trying to find someone, and the friends are all kind of dancing around them, dodging right out of their way and everything. This is another really graceful sort of dance scene that is still conveying a story really well. But as you said, the last person is William, and in the commotion, like everybody else just kind of wanders off, and William is still blindfolded, feeling around all alone.
Right. Now, to me, this read as if he wandered off into the forest.
Yeah, it could be. It's kind of, but he's not noticed either way. Like, the party's going on, he ends up separated from everyone.
Right, which is pretty awful for the birthday boy to just be able to wander off, right?
Yeah.
If it is the case.
Yeah, I think you may be right. I mean, the cameo being a gift, makes sense there. But so ultimately, he's alone, still blindfolded. And then the monster appears and is sort of dancing around, playing the game with William. And William, thinks it's still just his friends, and he knows somebody's around. He's trying to catch him. He can't quite. And then suddenly he touches the monster's face, and right away, this is not one of my friends. What's happening to this face? He removes the blindfold, sees the monster, and is terrified. Tries to run away.
Right, but the monster grasps him and starts swinging him around, right?
Mm-hmm. And this is, we often this scene. Sometimes the monster is intentional, sometimes it's an accident. Here, it definitely feels like an accident, and it also, again, is very balletic. It's a dance. He's twirling William, trying to just calm him down, trying to stop him from running away, trying to explain his whole. I just want someone to care about me. But he ends up, strangling William in the process.
Right, and William, of course, had the cameo, so the monster's going to pick that up.
Mm-hmm. Yep, takes it, he runs away, and then we kind of go back to the party and everyone's still dancing, and then suddenly Justine's mother notices William's not around, and so everybody kind of starts searching.
I like how the panic kind of breaks out between the crowd, and then like it starts with like one or two people looking for him, then everybody starts looking for him.
And at first it's still just like, we just got to go find him, and then they find the blindfold, and then everyone is like, oh no, this is bad.
No. Yeah.
So we have this full search. Everybody's, and again, they're all dancing and twirling around, and, you're kind of left to your imagination that they're all wandering through the forest. We just have them kind of all on the stage. But then suddenly...
Justine who finds the body and brings him in.
She appears carrying him in, and we have, Baron Frankenstein especially is just heartbroken. He loses control, basically. He starts shaking Justine in like anger, but like, just that kind of frustration of like, my baby is dead,
Right. Well, he shakes the cameo right out of her.
Yeah, it falls out of her pocket. So it's unclear how the monster gets the cameo in Justine's pocket in this version, but clearly he did. So, of course, the Baron sees it, on the ground, picks it up.
Murderer.
So he picks up William, carries her inside, and then we have like just various party goers who are like confronting Justine, pushing her around. Eventually, like we have the police actually arrive, and they take her away, in shackles.
Right. Now, of course, Victor's visibly upset by this because he's like, "Oh no, I think I know what happened, and I don't think this has anything to do with Justine." But that's when he's actually approached by the monster, who like starts grasping for him, and in a scene mimicking the early attempted kiss between Elizabeth and Victor, it tries to like kiss him as well, or it seems like it is.
Yeah, he gets really close to him, puts his hand on his face and everything. He's also holding William's cloak, and he just drops it on the ground. And this dance, it goes on a while. At some point in the middle of it, the monster's wearing Victor's coat again, but he takes it off and sort of like forces Victor to like look upon me, look at what you made. But it's the homoeroticism here is not subtextual. It is very present. Their dance kind of like goes straight into Justine's execution. We don't get the trial. We don't get any of that. And again, this is done really well, that it's like kind of beautiful and balletic, as like we have people gathered around her, sort of like accusing her and yelling at her. And then she just like lifts up off the ground, with
the rope around her neck.
Yeah, they've got some sort of harness or whatever that we can't see, but she just goes straight up into the sky, being hanged.
Now her mother actually does display like emotion, actual sadness at this. So that's the one motherly thing was after her daughter was basically murdered.
Yeah. And so that takes us into the intermission before Act 3. This time now we still have that skull staring at us, but it slowly zooms in. Well, it has like skin and muscle, or it has flesh on one side of the face. Yeah, but the camera or the animation, I guess, zooms in on the eye. So like the fact that we're being watched is even more present now.
So now we're going to go into a party scene that is interrupted by Clerval, or maybe he's being the MC, I guess. So this could be Victor and Elizabeth's wedding. I thought it was kind of a dream sequence with the way it started off, because there's a bunch of stars in the background and it's a big white staircase.
Yeah, I think you're right that the previous party was the birthday and that this party is a wedding. Because we have a big grand staircase, and at first, when the scene opens, it's just a bunch of extras dancing, and then Clerval comes in down the stairs. Then Victor and Elizabeth come down the stairs, and they're all in white. So that definitely makes me think that this is the wedding.
But they're having a big dance number with a lot of people. But one thing that I really like that this is doing is the monster is now in a kind of a red suit, right? And it kind of hops in and out just so Victor can see it, and then it dashes away.
Yeah, this part, there is something dreamlike here where I wasn't sure if the monster really was there, or if Victor is having hallucinations because he's afraid the monster is going to come back.
Right.
But there is a part where like the Baron comes down and like is talking to Victor and Elizabeth in a way that made me think that this is the ceremony. He's officiating. He's doing the.
He grabs their hands and puts them over each other and puts his on top.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And then we see the monster at several points, and he's, as you said, he's in all red, but he's wearing like really nice red trousers and a red like coat, but he doesn't have a shirt on underneath it, so we're still seeing like the scars on his chest and everything.
It's almost like Clerval's earlier outfit.
Mm-hmm. And Victor and Elizabeth have like, I think this is like their wedding dance, their first dance or whatever, and it was different than any of the other dances in this. It felt like Victor was sort of more in control of what she was doing. There was a lot of it where he's twirling her and her feet aren't touching the floor, or he's dragging her feet around the floor. Right. And it felt to me like this is him trying to like protect her from the monster. He's not letting her be herself because he's like holding her in to keep her safe.
Right, exactly. Well, even during this whole scene while they're dancing, he even kind of, his mind drifts off and he thinks of Justine and William, and you kind of see the actor and actress that played those characters pop in. They do a little dance. They wave at him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I feel like this is kind of like Victor's feverish state that we, like we're getting to see. He's present. He's awake. He's in this, this ceremony, this reception or whatever. Mm-hmm. But he is definitely like, mentally unmoored here. He's dealing with a lot, and his fears are getting the better of him here.
Right. Now, so then after that, we have a Clerval. I call this his dance solo because he was clearly the star attraction, I guess.
Yeah.
Where he just dances for a solid 5 minutes. I mean, it's well done.
Yeah. Yeah, the party goers are all kind of like standing around watching him. They're clapping. It definitely felt like, it was nice that Clerval got a little moment here where, he was kind of the outcast in school, but like people seem to like him here. Not just, Victor and Elizabeth, but like everybody at the party seems fond of him.
Right. But of course the dance stops once they notice that Victor's father is slumped over on the stairs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's collapsed, and Victor rushes over to him. He kind of has like a meltdown. And kind of like, gestures to the crowd, like, leave us, go away, It seems that, like, this is, that the Baron has died here.
But there's something fishy about it, apparently.
Yeah, he continues to see the monster dancing around.
Victor hands Clerval a gun, and Clerval basically is protecting Elizabeth, while Victor goes off to do something, I don't know what.
Yeah, he gives Elizabeth a kiss and disappears. So this is the "I will be with you on your wedding night" kind of thing. But
it's Clerval.
Yeah, it's a little different here. Clerval is present with Elizabeth. Victor is out searching for the monster. Right. And we get Clerval kind of like he's walking around the house with a gun, and he thinks they're safe.
But surprise monster attack. No, you're not, buddy.
Yeah, the monster comes up behind Clerval on the stairs and just, like, I guess breaks his neck or something. Like, he just, like, drops him quick.
Right, he throws the gun away and, like you said, breaks his neck. But then Elizabeth's like, no, I'm going to pull on you, buddy. She grabs the pistol, aims it at the monster, but he's too quick.
Yeah, it's like she just holds, her hands are shaking. Like, even if this is the right thing or like the best thing to do for your situation, it's still hard to just shoot a person, and she's having trouble actually being able to fire. But then, as you said, the monster's too quick. He rushes upon her, and we get this murder dance. Like, I don't know how else. Well,
it's very similar to the one that they do with William. There's a lot of the same moves that are done here as well.
Yeah, it's really violent, but like beautiful, and it's like really, you just haven't really, I'm not, as we said, like I've not seen a lot of ballet, but in anything I've ever seen, I've never seen something quite like this.
Right. Like they're shaking her, but also she's going with the movement as well.
Mm-hmm. And she keeps trying to like reach away, like she's trying to like call for help from Victor, and she keeps like trying to scream, and the monster kind of like keeps preventing her from it. Like, if you do, I'm going to kill you. Right. But he eventually does let her go, and he again undresses and shows her what he looks, like basically like, this is what your husband did. Like,
Right.
this is why you're being punished now, because you're part of all this.
So this is about the time Victor comes in, and like the monster grabs Elizabeth. So we now have the scene where the monster is behind Elizabeth, holding her. He could kill her at any moment. Victor has the gun trained on him. So is it that he fires and kills Elizabeth, or did the monster kill Elizabeth?
Yeah, it seems like I think the monster kills her. Like I think like Victor fires and like doesn't either hits the monster in a way that doesn't hurt him or misses altogether, and then he breaks her neck or
right. But this is also when we get the moment of them dancing together a little bit more, and it's once again they stroke each other's face this time though. So it's like you are my creation. I don't know if he's like I return your love a little bit. That's kind of weird, but
yeah, this scene was one of the ones that I had the most trouble like really parsing exactly what we were supposed to take from it, because we had the scene with the monster and Elizabeth that was clearly violent. It was a dance, but it was clear violence. Here it's
almost violent.
Yeah, it's almost a fight, but it's almost like romantic at the same time. Like or maybe it's supposed to be both, or that open to your interpretation. But yeah, as you said, I mean, there are parts where they're both stroking each other's faces. Like, it is very homoerotic. And at the end of it, Victor kind of collapses, and the monster like kneels down beside him and grabs Victor's hand and strokes his own face.
Victor takes the gun, and he's deciding if he's going to try and shoot the monster or what, but he turns the gun on himself.
Yeah. Yeah, like he's holding the gun on the monster. He looks over and he sees Elizabeth and Clerval dead there, and he decides I've got nothing left to live for. He shoots himself, and then the monster just collapses there next to Victor in grief, in like agony that he's lost everything now.
Right.
And
it's tearing through pages of the torn journal.
Yeah, which to me kind of indicate like. You could see it as like he's flipping through can I save Victor? Is there something I can do? Or maybe he's wishing that he could have had a bride. But I think it's like, could I fix what I've done? Like, this is my fault.
Could I bring Elizabeth and Victor and everybody back?
Yeah, I've killed these people, and that resulted in Victor's death, and it's all my fault. But yeah, so ultimately he stands up.
But all this time there is like a fiery scene in the background the fire seems to be rising. So the backdrop is getting redder and redder, and it's like a sunset, but it's like it's beautiful, but it's also kind of terrible. And he eventually drops the journal. He stands up and he walks away, like walks directly towards the backdrop, and the curtain slowly drops as he disappears into darkness and distance. Right. Now, see, what I took this as was that the mansion was on fire and burning, and he kind of threw himself into that. Now, don't get me wrong, that could be my interpretation, or it could just have been him walking off into the evening like you were talking about.
Yeah, it could be either way. I mean, he's giving up here. We don't know where, whether he's giving up and like actually dying, or just going to, exist in the Arctic all alone or whatever. Like he has given up on humanity fully at this point, and resigning himself to, to nothingness, basically.
Absolutely, yeah, no doubt. So that is effectively the end of the Frankenstein ballet.
We get a very extended applause thing. If you've,
I've been to a performance like that.
Yeah, it's like you have different combinations of people coming out and bowing, and people bringing out flowers and give them to everyone, and it goes on for a long time. But understandably so. Like, these people did an incredible job here. Yeah.
See, so one of the things I enjoy about like ballet is the physicality. It's the same thing with martial arts. Like, you have to train your body to move those ways, and you have to kind of drill that into yourself.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I mean, all of these dancers, I mean, they're like, you have big group scenes where everyone's moving perfectly in sync that is really impressive, and then you just have like these individual dances that are more elaborate, and telling a story, whether it's a fight or a love scene or whatever. Like they just really managed to convey a lot with, again, no dialogue. Obviously, this is just an orchestral, and this is live. Like, this applause stuff at the end. This really all happened, on the stage at the Royal British Ballet Company or whatever. And yeah, it's like all of the sets and everything. Like, this is done so incredibly well. I don't know that it's playing anywhere still, like, but if you're in a place where this is coming through, or if you live in London and have an opportunity to see this wherever it is, like, I mean, the version you can find online, it's beautiful, but like if this passed through around here, I would absolutely go see it.
I mean, seeing in person, like, that's there's no comparison.
Mm-hmm. And they did do a really good job here. Like, it's shot well. The camera, sometimes when you have one of these kind of stage productions, it's just like we put a camera to show the whole stage and we just left it there.
Right.
Here it's a little more dynamic. The camera is moving around. It's, they have a couple cameras that are focused on different parts of the stage. We get some face close-ups that you wouldn't get like if you were seeing it live. So there is something to this as a film project as well. But yeah, to see all of this, performed live, and these dancers, all of the physicality, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it would just be, really, like, awe-inspiring.
Yeah, especially the group scene, seeing all their movements intertwining, going back and forth. Like, we got close-up shots for most of it. So it was basically like, hey, here's the important parts. Mm-hmm. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
You can't necessarily see all the spectacle.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's much else to say about this other than, like, yeah, that it's really compelling. It does some interesting variations to the story. As I said earlier, I really liked how Justine was more of a part of the story, like her sort of struggle with her mother and everything. Mm-hmm. I do kind of wish we had gotten to know how she ended up with the cameo.
Yeah.
That because
it's kind of a plot point, plot hole.
Yeah, I feel like. Yeah, I don't know what the answer would have been if she had, like, found William and then just found it on the ground or something and just picked it up.
Right. Or if the creature had somehow, like, walked past her and planted it on her. We didn't get to see that.
Yeah.
If it did, so.
But it, it is just nice, like, having her be a little bit more fleshed out as a character. Obviously the monster gets a lot less in this. We don't get, his middle section. We don't have the DeLacy's. No. We don't have any of that kind of stuff.
Unfortunately, we don't get to see the action movie that takes place right before this with Felix, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it definitely, I mean, that for the way that the story is being told and the streamlined nature of it, that definitely was something that didn't fit with the tone here, especially when we're kind of like playing with this possible, homoerotic sort of subplot of Victor and the monster being connected, in a more romantic way.
Yeah, I mean, when you only have a certain amount of time, some things have to be cut, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, makes sense to me. That would be a great place to cut it, so.
Yeah.
All right, anything else we got to say about it?
I think that's it.
Hey, Anthony, so next week, let's do something slightly different. How do you feel about, do you want to play a game?
Yeah, so yeah, we do. We're I guess this is the biggest like change in format for us. Next week, rather than talking about a Frankenstein movie, we're going to have a special guest on, and we're going to be talking about Frankenstein video games over the years. He's been doing some work, a little bit of an expert on the subject, so he's gonna tell us a little bit about how the monster's been portrayed throughout the decades in a variety of video game platforms and stuff. So,
what's his channel?
He has a YouTube channel. He goes under the name Noiseland Co. Like NOISELANDCO. And yeah, I think this is kind of just his thing. He like goes through various. I think he's got like a long running series where he played every Simpsons video game. But yeah, next week we're gonna see what he thinks about all of the different Frankenstein games out there.
Yep. So, all right. Well, where can they find us, Anthony?
So you can find us on all the socials at the Frankencast, including TikTok, our newest endeavor. You can find us over there as well. You can also find us on YouTube, and you can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. And you also, of course, can find us at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we're always up to new things. We just finished up the Creature series, the Turkish interpretation of Frankenstein. We had a really good time with that.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff over there. There's a lot of different ways that you can take in that stuff over there. Free trials, a la carte, things if you just want to focus in on one thing that you're into over there. But, however you want to take part, we'd love to have you over there. Absolutely.
There's a lot of fun things we're doing, so hopefully we'll be able to ratchet that up a little bit more and get a few things out there,
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, well, anything else?
I think that's it.
Then, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek.